So let's go to best performing asset of 2022. What do you got, Chamath?
This is simple. This will be battery metals. Lithium, nickel, cobalt, graphite. Put them in a basket.
Like it.
You can be long these things, and I think you're going to
rapid fire, Sachs. What do you got? Best performing asset.
I just said Series A venture because it's pretty unoriginal. It's what I do. I think growth got a little bit overfunded and overheated, and I think the seed stage also. There were so many new seed investors. Again, it might have been partially because of excess liquidity. So Series A is still the choke point, and I think it's still the best area to invest in. Innovation's not going to stop. There's going to be great Series A investments next year.
I also picked early stage startups because that's where the magic happens. I picked early stage, like right before Series A. I think SPACing, direct listings, raising money, people coming down to do the Series Bs, all of that is creating a pull for more startups, and the founders are getting very sophisticated in terms of finding product market fit and scaling globally, earlier. And that's what's creating these great big outcomes, whether it was Uber or Facebook, both figuring out, and Airbnb, how to go global quickly. So my choice for best performing asset of 2022 is still early stage startups. Freeberg, what do you got?
Obviously, best performing asset in terms of a multiples basis, you're never going to beat seed stage investing, certainly. But I tried to highlight and continue my kind of contrarian bet that we're going to see increased global conflict next year. Again, driven by incumbents trying to hold on to political office and increase inflation and fueling economic growth and the American response to China. So in a world of increased global conflict, I think assets that do really well are energy commodities and energy stocks. I recently made a big bet on energy stocks, defense stocks, and it used to be gold. It could be the case that Bitcoin, sees a role as being a defensive position in portfolios in a world of war and conflict. So those are my kind of macro themes for asset.
Most anticipated trend of 2022. What do you got, Chamath? A trend you're anticipating in 2022?
Peer-to-peer payments, the destruction of traditional rails. It will come out of Africa.
Great. Sachs, what do you got?
This is where I had the civil war between progressives and pragmatic liberals. So building on what Chamath said, you're already seeing this in the feud between London Breed and Chesa Boudin. That is really going to, I think, blossom next year. We have not heard the last of that. You saw it in Philadelphia where the mayor, Michael Nutter, took on Larry Krasner. I think you're going to see it in New York City between Eric Adams and these Manhattan elites. And you also saw it in Washington, D.C., where the progressives were blaming Manchin for losing the Build Back Better. So this is a civil war that's going to continue, and what Chamath predicted with AOC versus Schumer would certainly play into that. So it's grab the popcorn. It is the trend I'm anticipating the most.
All right, there you go. Do you anticipate a similar trend with like the alt-right Trumpians and DeSantis and that kind of thing breaking up? How do you see that playing out?
Not yet, because Trump isn't on the ballot in 2022. So I actually think the Republican Party is going to be surprisingly united in 2022. I think where the trouble might come in is when we have a Republican primary in 2023. And especially if Trump runs, then, all hell's going to break loose. So
who are the two people who would be most viable against Trump in that 2023? Ron DeSantis and Ted Cruz?
Nikki Haley.
That's going to be fireworks. Freeberg, what do you got? Anticipated trend?
My biggest anticipated trend for 2022 is going to be a gold rush in biotech into what I think will become the cover story on magazines throughout the year, that humans have discovered the fountain of youth. And this will arise from these investments in what are called Yamanaka factor-based cell reprogramming methods. I've talked about this on the pod in the past. A few years ago, scientists identified that 4 chemicals could trigger gene expression in cells and get those cells to effectively revert to being stem cells. And more recently demonstrated that using lower amounts of those chemicals and other what are called kind of epigenetic factors can trigger partial cell reprogramming, which causes cells in the body to act youthful. As a result of those discoveries, an absolute gold rush is now underway. More recently, Yuri Milner, Jeff Bezos, Arch, and others put $1 billion to seed a new company called Altos Labs to pursue therapeutics in this area. Google has individually funded a company called Calico, led by Art Levinson, the former founder and CEO of Genentech. And just recently, Blake Byers and Brian Armstrong announced their new company called New Limit with $100 million of their own personal capital. All of these companies are pursuing the same effort, which is basically causing cells to be youthful, to regenerate in a youthful way. And as a result, you see kind of organs and systems in the body act more healthily. And there will be magazine covers and 60 Minutes articles, stories, and all sorts of stuff will start to happen in 2022, saying, "Oh my gosh," because the amount of money that's gone in this year is going to cause breakthroughs and discoveries to start to get published about next year. And when that starts to happen, and the media and the PR cycles start to kick up, you'll see this become the year of Yamanaka factor-based reprogramming. And everyone's saying it's going to be the biggest gold rush in biotech since recombinant DNA was used by Genentech in the 80s and 90s.
All right. And I had most anticipated trend of 2022 being the accredited investor laws are going to change and evolve. And it might just be you take a test and you're now accredited. It doesn't matter if you won the lottery or you make $200,000 a year. And a legal crypto framework is going to happen, I think, at the same time. So those regulations combined are going to empower really interesting capital formation on a global basis, whether it's running a syndicate with everybody in the world, including non-accredited investors or DAOs, or those two things merging, or as Balaji is talking about, a cap table over here that's mirrored on a blockchain at the same time, and people being able to trade their interest in Chamath's fund or Sax's fund or one of my syndicates with tokens on the internet. And that could become
that's pretty cool.
A major unlock. Where, if you were in...
I don't have a fund. I run a meager family office.
Well, if you were in your earlier funds and there was still stuff trickling to Social Capital 3, the people who have that could sell it back to you or sell it to each other if they wanted to get liquidity. And that's going to be super interesting, especially if it can happen just globally, where some person in China decides they want to have access to US funds. RLPs could just start selling if it was structured that way. Most anticipated film, TV series, media, yada, yada for 2022. What do you got? Yellowstone season 9, Sax?
So
I watched the first 2 episodes. It's really great. I mean, you forget what a great actor, what's his name is?
Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner is a great actor.
Yes. Yellowstone is great. I'll be watching next season. But what I had down here is Thor Ragnarok. The writer-director, Taika Waititi, is back. If you saw the last Thor movie...
Ragnarok.
Yeah, Ragnarok was the last one. The new one is called Thor Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
And, Thor went from being, I think, one of the most boring Marvel characters in the first 2 movies to being one of the funniest and, most fun in his last movie. So I think that sequel will be really good. And then the other one is they're doing a prequel show for Game of Thrones called House of the Dragon. I'm going to have to watch that. And then the Star Wars show I'm looking forward to most would be the Obi-Wan Kenobi show with Ewan McGregor. So
yes,
that
and
looks
Anakin. It's based on the
Anakin,
Clone Wars. And I had as well the Obi-Wan show, the Boba Fett show, and the Mandalorian shows all coming back are going to be absolutely bonkers. And then there's also this Token series that's coming out, the prequel, I think, that Amazon spending $1 billion on. And I think that's landing in 2022. What do you got, Chamath?
It is the All In Summit in May in Miami, and the birth of All In Media. So I think that we, by the end of 2022, will have published content, written content, not necessarily by us, but other forms of media interaction that get the truth out to a large swath of humanity.
Here we go.
Is this moving beyond just a couple of besties doing a podcast during lockdown?
Yeah.
What?
Wait, so All In Media, is that a new acronym? AIM?
All In Media? AIM? Wow, AIM. Well, what are we doing? Should we buy like a cable channel and just go 24 hours?
The AIM is the truth.
AIM Media.
AIM Media. Okay, there you go. I didn't even know. This is news to the rest of us, but Chamath is building the media, bro. Okay, here we go.
Who are we going to hire?
Tucker.
There'll be no shortage of folks who will want to come out of the woodwork to work with us on this. And I think the goal should just be to make sure we figure out what the real North Star is so that we never deviate. And part of the biggest things that we did, guys, was not trying to hustle for some few, shekels here or there, which was
like
stupid.
J-Cal wanted to.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I said
We're gonna talk in a minute about the plan for the summit.
The purity of not wrapping this thing with crappy ads and all kinds of nonsense is we've never lost our way. We don't need some stupid deal for some crappy media company. We all have independent ways in which we can monetize our lives and our hard work, and so we should come to this to always tell the truth.
I think that's one of the great innovations and decisions that you championed was not putting ads on it. I hear it all the time from people.